Hi everyone, we are now going to move into the conclusion part of our revision process, talking about your argument essay. Now remember, while we are doing this during your argument essay, this is something that you should be focusing on for all essays. If you looked at the introduction video, now you're looking at the conclusion. It really doesn't change. It's just the stuff that you're talking about changes, the stuff you're writing about. So think about that. However, there are some clear things that you need to consider about your argument essay. Remember that you want to be sure to merge all the quoted materials with your own words, and that you are always remaining in present tense. So as you go through and you're revising, make sure that your verb tense is not being used in the past tense. If you're talking about a writer with the novel, that you're saying the writer uses, not the writer used. You want to stay in the present tense. As far as your conclusion paragraph goes, you want to actually transition into that. Your most basic is, in conclusion. This allows the reader to know that you are wrapping up your essay. However, there are many, many more transitions that you can use. You can use phrases, you can use clauses. I recommend you go on Google and actually look up transitional phrases and sentences and get some ideas and try and start being a little more creative with your writing. From the in conclusion, you are going to make sure to lead your reader to know that you are concluding, and what is it that you are concluding with. It's almost like a reminder about what was addressed up in the essay. So information, recapping the most important items of the argument. You can revisit the lead from the introduction. Make sure that you link it back to items that you brought up in the introduction. Also, connect the analysis to society in some way, especially we're talking about censorship. This is still an ongoing issue. Yes, you read banned books, and most of them had been banned back in the 50s, the 60s, but you've also read articles from the Morning Call where books were just wanting to be banned 2 years ago. So this is not something that is from the past. It's still in the present. So how can you connect that then to society? And again, wrap up your entire paper by tying it back to your thesis. And again, this should always be your focus throughout the entire essay. Every paragraph, every entry, every example, every commentary should still tie back to your thesis in some way, shape, or form. That's why the thesis statement needs to be strong, needs to be clear, because it drives the entire essay. So looking at our sample, this one starts with the transition all in all. All in all, a uniform dress code at all educational levels proves to be a sound decision. This sentence definitely allows me to know that the rest of this essay, and I haven't even read it, talks about how uniforms should be implemented because it says it's a sound decision. Next, the author goes into taking apart the thesis statement. When schools implement a standard of dress, they level the socioeconomic field for all students. That looks like maybe one of the prongs from their thesis statement. Then a transition. Additionally, parents reap the benefits financially when a dress code is in place because they will spend less money on school clothes for their children. Thus, the second prong is probably a financial issue. Finally, students are safer in a uniform environment because intruders are easily visible. Therefore, this one, I would say, safety is the final prong of that thesis statement in the introduction. Notice that the thesis statement is not restated word for word or repeated. That you would want to make sure to change. So if your thesis statement is repeated, you want to maybe pull it apart a little bit and give a main idea for each one of those in your conclusion. Moving on, it says having a standard dress code in schools is no different than professionals who wear uniforms such as nurses, police, and firefighters. Thus, it is very plausible for all schools to implement a dress code at every level of education in order to focus on what is most important, the education of students. So, all schools should create a committee to research, plan, and implement a standard dress code for their schools. This final sentence, that is the call to action. It says, so at this point, what do you want society, people, parents, students, teachers, what do you want them to do? That final sentence should say that. Now, it shouldn't say you should do something, because we don't want to be in the second person at all in our paper. We also don't want to say, I think you should do this, because we want to take the author out of the paper. We already know this is your paper. We know this is what you think. You don't need to announce it. So you can take those out as well. Just make a very strong statement that says what is expected of people after reading this paper. So your activity then is to analyze, obviously, the paragraph above. So you can look at it again. I've mainly analyzed it for you through this video. However, now I want you to take this example and look at your conclusion. What do you do well? What do you not do so well that you need to revise? And what questions do you still have? Remember, bring those to class.